Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Third Banner Pod. I am your host, Kyle. I'm joined by Ross and Patrick, and tonight we have a lot to talk about. We have a huge game coming up against Virginia Tech, ACC championship game implications potentially on the table as both teams are tied for second place right now. It's a huge game. I feel like some of it's being a little bit overlooked due to some basketball stuff going on and the recent exhibition results. We're going to get into all that. We're also going to be joined tonight by WLKY sports reporter Dominique Yates, who will be here with us shortly. So with that being said, we're going to talk about basketball. Where do we go from here from the exhibition? We are going to start off with the football first because it's a huge game with huge implications. How you boys doing tonight?
Man, I am pumped, dude. Like I am. Me and my friends were talking today. I am absolutely pumped for Saturday. The weather's looking great. Such a big game. I mean, not the biggest game in U of L history, but man, we have been dreaming about the possibility of having the chance to play for an ACC championship since 2000, really 12 or 13, when we got news we were coming into the league. Yep. But especially 2014, when Bobby took over. I mean, it is November 1st, and we hold our destiny in our hands to get to the ACC championship. And it feels so great, man. I mean, I just can't tell you how happy and how excited I am. I can't keep a smile off my face when I talk about it.
Man, you're always smiling, Ross.
So. Yeah, man, you smile in your sleep. Who you kidding?
Man, I've got the leftover Halloween candy here. I'll be eating throughout the show. And I'm like Ross, man, every week is a big game now. And we've been waiting for that for, since Lamar Clemson year, where every weekend we're looking forward to a game that could make or break our year. So, I'm pumped about the game on Saturday. I'm excited to talk about Louisville basketball and what's going on there. Maybe not a good excited, but excited to talk about it. And, listen, football is key right now. We're doing well. That's what should be focused on. Both, here in the pod and what people should spend their energy on, because we're going to need a lot of energy on Saturday. So I'm hoping people are going to get out to the game and help build that environment that's been a good one the past few weeks there. So
it really has. I'm sorry, Kyle. I mean, I know there was a lot of the upper deck that wasn't full for the game against Duke, but man, that was a very good environment. Like, the fans were super engaged, and you could tell that the crowd really had an effect on Duke at the line of scrimmage. So I think the word's out, man. I think the fans are catching on. They realize what's happening. We've always said we're not a dumb fan base. We're a smart fan base, and you can tell what's up. I think fans can tell what's up.
Thank you, Aaron B., Trace, Evan, D. Howard, big Cardinal fan. Thanks all you guys for joining the chat. Those are the ones I see talking in here, and thank you everybody else. I also want to say real quick before we get into introducing our guests tonight, I know we aren't IU fans, but we did have a legend pass away this evening. So rest in peace to Bobby Knight. He's a big part of college basketball, the history of it. I'm a lifelong Hoosier, been in and out of the state a whole lot. From Jeffersonville, so I've always been a Louisville fan, but I know the rich tradition of IU. So just want to throw that out there real quick. Rest in peace, Bobby Knight. I know there's a lot of fans now. I'm in Central Indiana, especially, that are definitely mourning the loss of that. That being said, I did want to talk about our guest tonight. We have with us, who's going to be joining us, we have WLKY sports reporter Dominique Yates, and I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. We're thankful that he's going to take some time out of his busy schedule just to talk Louisville football and basketball with us. So without further ado, Dominique, thank you for joining. Welcome to the Third Banner Pod. How are you doing tonight?
Doing all right, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. So obviously, I have told people this is the biggest game of the year. I know the Notre Dame game was the legendary game in football where, you know, we packed the house and the crowd was just absolutely wild. The national spotlight was on us, but that's not an ACC game. And we are tied for second place right now, as you well know, with Virginia Tech. And I just want to know what your thoughts were on this matchup as far as what you're most interested in seeing, because obviously they've been on a roll lately. They started off they started off slow and had some losses, and they've really picked it up the last 3 games. So, Dominique, from where you're at, what are you seeing with this game? What are some of the big things you're looking for?
I think that this is a game, Louisville versus Virginia Tech, a chance for second place in the ACC and position for an ACC championship. I think it's just as we all predicted, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the main thing going into the year, we all figured this is what happened. No, not at all. That's what's nuts about all of this right now, that we are talking about Louisville being in the driver's seat, controlling its own destiny, could potentially play for an ACC championship in year one with Jeff Brum, with more than 70 guys, new guys from the portal, and they tried to put all these pieces together. The fact that Louisville is in this position is impressive. So first things first, that's what really stands out to me. So it is a huge game, and I agree with you, Kyle, that in terms of the magnitude and what's at stake, it is bigger. Notre Dame is more just like establishing yourself of what type of program you want to have at Louisville. So it was big to get that win on that stage. But in terms of if you want to play for championships, this is a big one. Virginia Tech has been a team who knows what type of team might show up, the team that lost to Marshall or the team that's gotten some confidence playing against Syracuse. So it's going to be a fun game. Louisville is, playing really well right now. That Duke game was very impressive, especially defensively, holding a ranked team with a shutout. With Riley Leonard playing, you got to tip the cap to that defense. So it's going to be a fun one on Saturday.
Right. And to hit off your point about, expectations where they were before the season, and then where we're at now, coming into the season, we're like, man, no Clemson, no Florida State, no UNC. And we're like, man, we've got the cakewalk schedule to get there. And the ACC was looking like it was gonna, it was kind of Florida State and kind of everybody else, Miami in general Miami fashion. They were like picked to possibly be, I don't want to say underdog, but to be there, and they've done Miami things. But here we are, we're in week 9 or 8, the college football season. We have 1 loss, and U of L's strength of schedule is much better, much harder than predicted at the beginning of the year. So
that's true.
While that Pitt loss sucks, I still wish it wouldn't have happened. But here we are. We're 7-1 going into a matchup with Virginia Tech to control our destiny, to play for the ACC championship. And like I said, our strength of schedule is really picked up. So it's a big game. It is a big game.
Yeah, for me, I just look forward to seeing what type of Louisville team comes out as well. Will you be tight, nervous, jittery? You haven't seen that a whole lot this year. I think that this team has kind of played like how Jeff Brum is. They try to be intense. They try to, be like business-like. So it'll be big, and I do think that they know what's at stake, and that's what makes it more interesting. It's like the elephant in the room. It's like, guys, you got to talk about it. You can't ignore it. So that's why I'm really curious to see how the Cardinals will respond, and especially with Virginia Tech not really having as much to lose compared to Louisville, so they'll be able to play a little bit more loose. So I'm curious on how the Cardinals will look. For sure.
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed this year is we seem to play different at home. We seem to play a lot looser at home in front of the fans. So I'm hoping that trend continues. We've played a little tighter on the road. That's been where, we've had our close games and stuff. But I have a question for you, Dominique, and I also want to say, man, I love the shirt, man. That shirt is fire, man.
I was gonna say something too, man. I was. People were talking about pimp hands and backhands in the chat. I was gonna say, I mean, speaking of, we got that Ali, got that backhand jab right there. You know,
there's the glove right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome, man. But yeah, as a media member, you know, you kind of have a different viewpoint and maybe expectations than you know, a regular fan. And we've kind of talked about how this, you know, being where we are right now in terms of being in the ACC title conversation wasn't expected. But how has, you know, the transition to Coach Brom and kind of, you know, how we play and how we prepare and stuff like that, how has that met your expectations? Has it exceeded expectations? You know, when he came in here, what did you envision and what have you currently seen that, you know, has kind of proven that or disproven that?
That's a good question. Yeah, you know, I guess my relationship with Brom goes back 10 years now, going back to when I was at in Bowling Green working media there, covering Western Kentucky. So I first met Jeff when he was the offensive coordinator under Petrino in 2013, and then 14, 15, 16. He was head coach. So I've known him, his wife, you know, his son Brady, daughter. You know, I've known the family for a while now. So I had, you say, an early front row seat to what Brom could do in terms of the offense and the innovative play calling and the flea flickers, just all those, you know, unique things. And then watched him at Purdue and saw what he did, you know, in those big games in moments. So I'm not shocked per se that he would do this at Louisville, but I'd be lying if I said I thought he would do it this year. Just because there were so many unknowns.
I think we all are a little bit. You know, I think on here, I know me and Ross predicted 9-3, and we had one guy on here that predicted 10-2. I think there's 4 of us. 3 of us predicted 9-3. So,
right, and it's kind of
crazy how we could end up in an ACC championship game. It's just wild, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's one thing to think about it, but it's another thing to actually see it happen. Yeah. I think that's what's shocking to me. And with not only that, again, the way they dominated teams like Notre Dame and Duke, I think that's what's really stood out to me. It hasn't just been like a upset, like field goal or a bad call or something. It's like they dominated these teams for 4 quarters. That stood out to me.
And you know, the other thing too is that, I mean, you know, I know you probably don't have any feelings one way or another, but I mean, you just did not see that from the last staff. You didn't see the players reflect that from the last staff a lot of times when it came to games, right? Like, and you see from this team, from these players in this team, like they really do like reflect Brom's attitude and the coaching staff's attitude towards the game. Like, you rarely come out and see them flat. You know what I mean? I know, like, especially at home. I mean, we just keep seeing it. Like they just, I can't, it's total night and day. And I'm not even going to beat around the bush or anything. Everybody knows that watches our channel. I was a huge staunch Brom supporter. I never liked Satterfield. I never thought he was a good fit. There was a lot of things wrong in my mind with that hire, but Brom was the right fit. And we're seeing all the perfect pieces coming together now with that hire. Like, what a coach can mean to a team and the trajectory of a program. Like, it is happening. It's happening year one.
I think what goes a long way is when you have a staff that gets it. Understands Louisville, understands the history. You know, a lot of people during fall camp, during the Chris Barkley moment when he was talking about being an assistant coach at Louisville, and he got emotional. You know, he couldn't even get through that answer, and, you know, posted that, you know, on social media, and people really grasped and got a hold of that. But you have the Broms and him, and not only that, even the guys like Ryan Wallace that are from Kentucky, you know, right down the road in Bowling Green, like, understands what Louisville means to this community and this fan base. And I mean, you see that they're showing up now and they're engaged. You know, there's a lot of buzz and
Absolutely.
excitement. So, you know, that's what it's about. When you get a fit, it goes a long way at any school. And Louisville just got its fit with Jeff Brom.
Yeah. Perfect fit, you know, and it's I want to give you brought him up, but I played against Chris Barclay when he was a Hikes Point Lobo. That dude's a beast, man. That dude he was a beast. Anybody that doesn't know about Chris Barclay, he was a dog, man. He was a dog. So
yeah, you know, as far as this game goes, there one of two things are going to be broken. We have been killing it at home, and then I know Coach Brom has struggled coming off of a top 25 win, especially a big win. So we come off of that from Duke, and also Virginia Tech has struggled on the road. So somebody's streak is going to end. I'm hoping it's theirs, and I'm hoping it's Jeff Brom's losses versus the team following up with the top 25. I think he's 0-5 now, or is it 0-6? I don't know.
I think it's 0-5. It was 3 or 4 of them at Purdue. It was the Ohio State, like Minnesota. Iowa State,
correct. It was 0-4. You're right. 3 at Purdue and then 1 here. So he's 0-4, but he's also undefeated at home. And Virginia Tech has been this season. They've not been a good road team. Now
they haven't won a road game. They haven't.
But here's one thing that's kind of like a kink in armor as well, is that they actually are coming off of a bye week. How does that affect them? Some people come back dialed in, locked in like we did. Of course, I think psychologically our bye week was a little different. We had 2 weeks of here, woulda, coulda, shoulda, everything we did wrong and how we could be in control of our own destiny at that time.
Yeah.
And then North Carolina lost that game. It's like, well, you guys could be in sole possession right now, but you're not because you lost that game. So they came out, and I mean, that's what I predicted before. I never thought it was going to be a close game against Duke. And that's the first time all year I haven't been nervous. I said no. And just like I thought Pitt was a big-time trap game, I felt the exact opposite. But this week, I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm having a hard time nailing down my prediction for this football game. I just see so many variables that I think they're a better team, Virginia Tech. I think they're starting to roll at the right point. I think a bye could help them, but then they could have the 2-week bye hangover that some people – I won't call it a hangover, but they just come out a little rusty is a better way to put it. And I don't know what that is. It's just like your routine's not the same as it normally is. So you come out with 2 weeks. It can help you or hurt you. And there's so many different conflicting streaks. So somebody's streak's going to break. And I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sure. I think we can win this game. I think if we play our game and we stay locked in, I give us the advantage. I do worry about their dual threat quarterback, though.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's definitely Drones he's changed that offense. He's been able to help that offense find points now at this time of the season. They move the chains. I watched them 2 weeks ago against Syracuse. That's a bad Syracuse team, but man, I'm gonna keep shouting out Dino Babers too, though. I like Dino Babers. I don't know why people hate on him. I like Dino a lot. So, but it's hard to win a Syracuse football. I mean, let's be honest. But
he's done solid there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But that's not a great Syracuse football team this year, and they just from the word go, from the time they kicked off the ball, Virginia Tech just controlled that game. It was never close. I think that some of that could possibly be hanging over when they come to face us. You're going to be facing a different opponent, So I think if it's one of those situations, again, like our team this year is very determinant. Like the course of the game is very determinant upon how fast we start. Because you don't want to put the ball in Jack Plummer's hands and force him to make plays. So I think if we can start fast like we did against Duke, I think Virginia Tech's in a similar situation to where, they're going to want to control clock and control, run the ball. They're going to want to pound it a little bit. Drones can throw it. He gives you some glimpses of freshman Lamar. Like, I'm not saying he's Lamar. Don't anybody take that comment overhand. But you can see, like, the light bulbs there. Like, he's got potential. Like, he's a real threat. So, We're going to have the defense play a smart game. They're going to have to play discipline, and, they're going to have to play very strong assignment football.
Yeah.
So, Dominique, I want to ask you to kind of transition just a little bit. I know you follow like the high school team of the week, and so you follow these local high schools around here. And we've got the Brahms here now. You've got a lot of local staff members, Chris Barclay, for example. And I think we're going to see a much more significant – we're going to see a lot better effort recruiting locally than the last two staffs had. We've already seen it somewhat. So my question for you is – is there anyone in particular you're kind of looking at as far as like talented players that we may kind of, hone in on maybe, or that you'd like to see us maybe take a look at based on who you've seen so far?
There's several guys that stand out that I am curious how much Louisville talks to. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, 3 of them are at Male High School. Max Gainey.
Max Gainey. Yeah.
He's the number one guy. I'm wondering how much Louisville talks to him.
Sure.
Because, we are in a world of smaller receivers. It's not crazy.
It is crazy.
That,
I wouldn't have guessed that 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Exactly. So I'm curious because he has some intangibles. He's special. And then the other guy, he plays DB and wide receiver, Antonio Harris, a junior, very skilled guy, and then a junior offensive tackle, Spike Souls. People talked a lot about him as well. So those guys stand out. But, number one for sure is Gainey. I'm curious about how much Louisville recruits and looks after them. So those 3 guys. Then I do know Louisville heavily is after Cortez Stone, the running back at Central. He's a next level guy as well.
Awesome.
So I know Louisville I've seen him at pretty much every home game. On recruiting visits.
Yeah.
So I know Louisville is big on him. You can tell it, especially with the offers and all that. So, there's a lot. Yeah, you'll see that, though. You'll see a lot of the talented local guys. Louisville, I think, will just be on them big time, especially if they can play and have success here.
Yeah. Man, Cortez and JoJo Stone both commit, and they could make an NIL deal with a T-shirt that says "We got the Stones."
There you go.
One dad joke per pod episode. That's it right there.
Don, let me ask you. So I know the Gainey family pretty well. Max's dad, John, is a former U of L DB. At one time, he actually led U of L in interceptions. He started in the Fiesta Bowl with Howard, and he coached my brother in Little League football. So I've grown up knowing that family for a really, really long time. I also am curious to see how much attention. I know the Brahms have relationships with the Gaineys. I think it's pretty good. It does. I don't want to say we're cool playing them, but am I reading too much into your comments that maybe you're expecting to see more attention going forward, or maybe you're surprised by the attention that he's gotten so far? I do know that, I don't think it's a secret. I think John would love, and I think Max too. I think they would love to come to U of L, but they're going to make the best decision, for Max, and so I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess just more than anything, I am curious how much conversations, how much has been there. Is there an actual legit scholarship offer or anything like that? Because kind of going back, seeing Cortez Stone at games, on the sidelines, and seeing some the Christian Academy kids, and some Trinity boys, and I haven't really seen Gainey around. At least I know I've seen Antonio Harris. I think I've seen Spike. I guess there's more than anything. I'm curious how much conversation is there, or if at all. That's just what I'm curious, because I just think he can play.
He's a playmaker. I've been watching him since he was 6th grade at TMS.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very good. He's one of those dudes, you put the ball in his hands, he makes plays. So I'd feel really bad if we let a kid like that get out of the city, man. I hope not. So
that's what I'm curious about, because there's a bunch of scholarships. How many? What do you get? 85 or something like that to work with. Is there not one for that kid? That's just kind of my mindset because I don't. Maybe I'm just biased because I cover high school sports in this area. But when I've seen the kid, I'm like, I know if the kid can play or not. And you watch games and it's a 4th and 7 in the red zone, and the opposing team is yelling, "Watch Gainey! It's going to Gainey!"
Yep. Watch
and
Matt.
They got double coverage on him. Whatever, he still finds a way to get open and make a play. You kick, punt return, kick return. It doesn't matter. Players make plays, and I just think he's a player. And then I know adding in Brahms, innovative offense and play calling, and likes to utilize all of his players on the field. You can't tell me there's not a spot for him, at least my opinion.
Yeah, the ability to get guys open.
Right. Yeah. And that's my thing. And obviously, Brom, he will forget more football than I've ever known. So he might see something that I don't. Or again, they might be talking. It might just be quiet. I just haven't really asked about it. But I am curious if there isn't much interest out there, at least from Louisville side.
Yeah, I'm sure, you 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before you had the transfer portal, I think there's no question he's already offered.
Yeah.
Maybe he's already committed.
Great point. Yeah.
And that kind of leads me to a question I have for you covering high school sports. Do you get the sense, I hear from people I know who have kids being recruited by colleges and high school, that the transfer portal has really affected high school recruiting in the sense that, kids that would get scholarship offers from Louisville now have to look maybe at a level down, or kids that would get lower D1 scholarship offers are now looking at, D2 type offers and stuff like that. Is that something that when you're covering the sport that you hear a lot of?
Absolutely. From coaches and players. And yeah, it's just that's the name of the game, which I get it, right? Would you want Max Gainey or wait until the end of the year and find out some receiver from Ohio State or something, or LSU or some big name schools in the portal? You would want a chance to get that kid because of the experience and all that comes with it. And yeah, very few coaches now in college are saying, I guess, Dabo Swinney and Clemson, freshmen, and want that whole system. And that's right. I guess you kind of see how that's playing out right now. So I do think it's hurt high school recruiting a lot. And I think that's part of it. But I do think, at least to Brom and Louisville's credit, they do still like to have that foundation of freshman kids. And you've seen that even from the quarterback room, having Travis Egan, a walk-on, kid from Bullitt East, but he was a Kentucky Mr. Football who won a state championship, and he's offered him a walk-on, and he's on the roster, and he actually was one of the 9 or 10 quarterbacks that got a snap in that Murray State game. So I guess that's part of the process for sure.
I think too, I'm big on that kid, right? It wasn't a fluke that Bullitt East beat Mayo last year. That wasn't a fluke, and he was a part of that, right? So he's one of those difference makers. I don't know how he's going to get on the field at U of L, but I expect him at some point to possibly grab a scholarship, and he will make it on the field somehow. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to do it. Because, like you said, players make plays.
Yeah, he's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
He definitely is a winner. It was it was a fun championship game to cover, and just to witness it, and just seeing a leader never panic and keeping those guys together. And I mean, he's the quarterback, and he's catching the game-winning 2-point conversion. Again, like him, like Gainey, those are players that they find ways to get it done. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if what you said happens.
Yeah.
So I did want to transition. I see a lot of talk about basketball in the live chat.
Why?
I know. So here's my question. So here we are. Obviously, we are coming off the 71-68 loss to Kentucky Wesleyan in the exhibition. That's the second year in a row we have lost to a D2 team. So, Dom, what I want to ask you, man, is have your expectations going into the season, have you altered them at all based on that game, or does it kind of align with I mean, did you think, okay, I don't see any real major change from where I thought we were? I'm curious where you were, not knowing anything about what you expected before tonight. How does that play out in your head after that loss?
Honestly, I'm just as confused now as I was before. We're in a spot, it's well documented that, there's not as much access compared to, before other staffs or anything like that. So I go into scrimmages, games with the blind eye as well, with no real gauge or feel on how it's going to play out. So I still believe, to start the season, I said, they'll be better than last year. I know it's only 4 wins, but it's like, I know they'll be better than last year. I just don't know by how much. Yeah. I still stand by that, right? I still believe they'll be better than last year. I don't know by how much. And again, that KWC game makes it more confusing because, again, it's like, okay, was it because trying a different starting lineup again? Was it a rotation thing? Was it because they didn't try to establish an inside game with the bigs and tried to go small with KWC? It's like there's a million things that run in your head, and it's because of the unknown of like his mindset. So, for example, going to football, because I know Brom and how he likes to operate, if it was a wild 4th down call, or, for example, that fake kneel down with Jawar Jordan they made. It's like, oh, yeah, I saw that at Western. I know he likes to be gutsy and tries different things. So, like, for Brom, I kind of get a feel for how he's going into a game and wants to attack different things. So, but for Kenny Payne, I just don't. So, there's just a lot of trying to figure out a lot. So, honestly, as a media guy, like, I'm not a Louisville fan or anything like that. But just as a media guy, I'm just as confused as fans are. So I'm getting a haircut today. They're asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm trying to figure things out along the way, just like everyone else is.
Sure. Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of that confusion, and that's a lot of speculation one way or the other about where we're going from here. But I just want to get your thoughts on that. And with that being said, I don't know if anybody in the chat has any ideas of questions just in case. But go ahead, Ross. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, what were they asking you today, Dom, when you were getting your haircut? What were they asking you about?
Simple, the usual talk about who would be the next head coach, or would they do this, make a change midway, everything.
They didn't want to talk about anything that happened apparently recently.
No. We see it that I didn't hear
none
about
of us
that
know about
until
that
this afternoon. So all the rumors, I didn't hear about any of that rumor stuff until later today. So the gift that keeps on giving, I guess, sometimes with the social media.
I'm so there with you. Like I say blessed. I was blessed to get the opportunity to be in one of those little small groups that got to go in to the facility this summer and got to meet the team, got to talk to Kenny, ask questions. Like, I can't say enough about how much that experience meant to me as a fan, right? Like, I really appreciated it, and it really changed my perspective on him leading the program and the team. It really gave me an extra buy-in, right? And then you come out and you lose to Kentucky Wesleyan in an exhibition game again. And then you've got certain things like, Nolan possibly taking a job elsewhere. Like, it's just, there's some things that you just can't really overlook. And it feels like we're seeing a lot of the same stuff from last year. And I want this to work out for Kenny and this U of L basketball program and our fans like nobody else. I want all that we revere and all of that we're enjoying in Jeff Brom, our own, leading our football program. I want that for Kenny and our basketball program and our fans so bad, but we're just not getting it, and it's just, I hate seeing it. It hurts, man. It really does. It hurts.
It's fair, and you can tell that. I mean, a lot of fans have said a lot of that, echo those same sentiments, where you want to see more. Again, because fans have been accustomed to seeing just effort and attitude and diving for loose balls and just the block out, just a lot of the little things.
Kenny helped build that. Kenny helped build that tradition.
That was what it was established. That's how it's always been. Yeah, from Denny Crum and Rick Pitino. I mean, even Chris Mack, early on, he established a type of intensity and again, had the guys early on how they wanted to play and established. And you just really haven't seen an identity yet with this program really for the last 2 years. So I'm curious to see how this season plays out and a game one. After how the KWC game, you have to kind of like Louisville football after the Pitt game, you have to sit on that and you have to take it all in. And how do you respond? Football responded with a mad mentality and was about the business. And basketball is going to be interesting. They have new guys, new leaders. So I'm wondering who will emerge because there's talent on the team. There's definitely talent.
Patrick, sorry. I was going to say, Patrick, go ahead. I wanted to make sure because I know we want to respect your time, but did you have any last questions for Dom here before we, let him wrap it up?
Yeah, no, Dom, you've been great, man. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, man, I need you to tweet me or something where you got that shirt because I gotta find something from that shop, man. So
I gotta remember. I can't remember the website. If I find the link, I'll send it to you.
Awesome, man.
Well, I just want to let you know, man, we really appreciate you being on here and your insight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it.
What I'm seeing in here. All right, Ross, you got anything before we exit?
Hey, shout out to your dude, Chad Bishop. Georgia Tech, AJC, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Georgia Tech beat writer, getting us in touch with you. I know that's one of your dudes, man. So we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, guys. Thank you, and enjoy the game this weekend.
Make sure to check out Dominique on WLKY.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you can find him on Twitter at RealDYates.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dom.
All right, let me fix these banners. Let's see. There we go. All right. Well, we appreciate some good insight there. I can see where you guys are going in the chat. You guys want to talk about all this Kenny Payne stuff. So we didn't want to do that with a guest on here. We appreciate everything, though. I mean, we broke down football. We're excited about that. It's like I feel so conflicted. I don't know about you guys, but it's like I want to talk how exciting this game is. But then today, all day long, it's just basketball stuff. And I can say it's entertaining. I wouldn't say exciting in a fun way. So I'm like very conflicted on what to talk about. And it's like, yeah, I want to talk about the football game. Yeah, we need to show up. We need to show out. But oh my God, like right now as we're doing this show, there's all kind of stuff coming out about, coaching changes on Twitter, which is one of those accounts that they typically break a lot of stuff that other people don't have the guts to break because they're anonymous, but they're run by a group of people who are basically agents from what I understand and getting these updates. And you see something like coaching changes while we're on here. Somebody sends it to me and it says that they apparently the administration approached Danny Manning about becoming the interim head coach and he turned it down. Now, is that true? I don't know. Not saying it is. We are not condoning any of that on the Third Banner pod. It's just something that came out. And then we all know everybody wants to talk about, I see all throughout the chat, did Kenny Payne and a player get into it in practice and how bad was it? My understanding is it did not happen, but I will say this. I have never seen where two groups of people are on the opposite sides where some say it did happen, some say it didn't. And I have a lot of trust in people in both camps. And some people in the camp that say it did happen, they're not willing to budge. They're not willing to back off of that. So it's odd. It's very odd. I tend to lean more towards it did not happen based on a couple of really substantial sources that they just, even before the athletic department came out with their tweet and said this, nothing happened in practice. The two sources I'm thinking of, they just were like, no, this is a big nothing burger. Absolutely nothing remotely close to that happened. It's just weird. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of when Chris Mack was the coach, his final half season. And you saw rumors every single day coming out. I mean, who could forget, what was it? Mike James and Sidney Curry were getting in a fight over some food. And,
or some chicken nuggies, baby. Some Chick-fil-A chicken nuggies.
Yeah. It got crazy. And so I don't know. This kind of stuff happens. And even though it's not, like I said, I don't think it happened. We are addressing the rumor mid-tips. That's what we're talking about. I don't think it happened, but I will say there's people that are very credible and have proven themselves to be credible who are not backing off of that ledge that it happened. I just think it's unfortunate we're in a situation where either A, it did happen, or B, people feel like they have to make up stuff for agendas, which always happens when things aren't going well. So either way, it just kind of reflects the state of the program right now. And let's face it, Chris Mack was people remember now that he quit, but it wasn't looking good for him. He was on the radar to lose his job if he finished that season out. We weren't playing well. We didn't make tournament the year before. And although he had some positive moments, I think we've magnified how positive they were after the fact that we have had even worse moments since he left. But it doesn't change where we were then and what he was doing and that he wasn't meeting the expectations. So these rumors start coming out, whether they're true or not. And you're starting to see it already. We lose an exhibition game. What happens? Within a couple of days, here we are addressing rumors. And so it's going to be a long 4 to 5 months around here. And it's just getting it's getting kind of crazy. And mid-tips, I did see some of the reliable insiders on one of the boards saying that they are adamant that it happened. I have people that I trust outside of the boards who say it happened, but then I've also got people who I really trust that say it did not happen and it never happened, and they don't know why this is even being discussed. It's just weird. It's just weird. Yeah. I tend to side with them just because a couple of them just have really strong connections to the basketball program in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you analyze this stuff, and I hate analyzing rumors and stuff, but we're at the point in the Kenny Payne era.
Yeah, I don't think
where, you have the first year stuff goes bad. People are mad, but not desperate yet. And we are at the point in the Kenny Payne era where people are getting desperate. And that's when you start seeing rumors flying around and, whether they're false, whether they're partially true. And I tend to think things like this last somewhere in the middle usually. I do have, it is interesting to me now the timing of this supposed incident has been, some people say it happened today in practice. Some people say it happened last week. But it is interesting that Karan Davis does not play. And then a rumor comes out that he's getting into it with a coach that, those type of situations are where it's easy to start pumping something that may have happened or a version of it may have happened. And so, I think we're going to see, like Kyle said, a lot more of these rumors that may be partially true, maybe totally false. So it's just the state of the program right now, unfortunately.
It is. And, it's one of those situations where when things are going wrong, fans start looking for things. It's kind of like, it's not an apples and apples, but like when you have somebody that, I don't know if anybody ever has like a family member or a friend or something that doesn't have a job, right? And they're all looking for like some drama, or they're always looking for that like next thing. Like they have all the time in the world, right? And it's usually not a good thing. Like I said, it's not apples to apples, but there's a lot of what ifs out there that present a lot of time for Louisville basketball program, and people are trying to find something to cling on to, whether it's good or bad, because they want some sort of finality, to to where they can judge where to put their emotions, So, to me, I'm kind of in the camp where you are, Pat, I think that if you're looking at most likely scenario, and it's weird that Karan Davis didn't play at all, and you get this rumor today, it just seems like the amount of smoke that there was, to me, it seems like something probably happened. I don't know. I can't speak on that. I wasn't there. But the amount of people that say that something was there, and they're not willing to back off of it, like Kyle said, it just seems like something happened. Yeah. And, I just the severity of it and how intense it was, that we're never going to know, right? We're never going to know that. Well, but
I do think, just to hit on the severity, I do think we can, it's implied by the lack of action that it was severe enough to, if it got physical, either Kenny Payne is suspended, fired, whatever, or Karan Davis is suspended or let off the team.
For the record, the ones I saw, the people talk to me that are credible but won't back down, they never claimed it got physical. They claimed it was
right
for that. I saw the tweet that kind of made a local Louisville Twitter viral type of tweet where somebody had said that they got physical. I never once heard that. I think the only question I have is, did any major altercation happen to the point where they had to be broken up or not? Now, the university claims not, and there are people that are very close who I think would be, I don't think the two people I'm thinking of that I do consider credible that are claiming nothing happened at all, I don't think they would have a problem saying, oh, it happened. Yep, it happened. Or at least maybe not getting into the weeds as far as specifics, but saying, something did happen. I'll leave it at that. They didn't even go that far. They said absolutely nothing close to this happened. Then you've got other people that are like, yeah, it definitely happened, and it's just it didn't happen today. So they're spinning it to sound like it never happened at all. So, this is going to happen is my point. This is going to continue occurring. This is not going to be the last time. If we continue to lose like this, these things come up. So my advice to anybody, if you care about your credibility, is to make sure you don't tweet it out until you know for sure. Because let me tell you, at one point earlier today, I was really confident something really definitely beyond a shadow of a doubt went down. It was not good at all. And by the end of the day, I'm kind of wondering if anything happened at all. I kind of think the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, but I can't confirm it. So guess what? I'm not going to tweet it. I will say this. There are things that I do hear, and I've heard it for a long time, and I know these things are happening, and they're not to the level of anything scandalous or physical altercations, verbal altercations. It's more about how the program's being run. That's what I'm concerned about. And I'm getting very specific stuff about, the communication between staff members, the lack of meetings between staff, the practices, the way they're being organized. Now, I know they've been having some public practices. I don't know if those are being run the same way, if that's been the case, but you hear things, and I've heard them for a long time now. And it could just be people, sometimes you got to figure out who is just getting info from the same source and spread, they just shoot it out to a bunch of people. I've learned in this communication hierarchy, usually somebody that's connected will send stuff to the next group of people that are connected, but not directly. And then all of a sudden, those people that are indirectly connected will get all the same thing. You'll hear the same story from 3 or 4 different people. Yeah. And then it spreads to the rest. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the tweets and, the comment accounts like me or other people. We start hearing things. I try to refrain from tweeting. I know I broke the Tyler Johnson was having eligibility issues that he ended up getting a waiver for. I knew for a fact that was the case and that he was being academically redshirted unless he got that waiver. So I felt comfortable breaking that, but normally I don't, because the hierarchy here, is that it gets disseminated. And I feel like whatever happened here got disseminated to like 5 or 6 people below. And then all of a sudden and then it spreads. And that's how it starts with a few embers and it turns into a forest fire.
Yeah. And it gets lost in translation too.
But I will say there are things that are not being communicated, I think, like that I am very confident are a problem. And I think it has to do with the way the program is being managed right now. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I don't want to get into the specifics of that, but you see it playing out on the court, and it doesn't surprise me at all. And it's disappointing. And I think a lot of things, depending on how it goes, unless there's a dramatic turnaround, it looks like the writing's on the wall here. And I think even some of the biggest supporters, like when you look on Louisville Twitter, it's funny how when people tweet each other and they don't agree on something, they go at each other's necks, man. They come for the throat. I try not to engage in too much of that. I went back and forth a little bit, like very little, but it's very subtle. It's not nearly to the extent of a lot of these names. I see some of the same names all the time going at each other about if Coach Payne's the right fit or if Coach Payne's the wrong fit. And it's like they collide. Well, all of a sudden, it's funny how you can get in Twitter spaces and podcast groups and talk where you talk like voice to voice and you communicate over audio. And you start to realize, man, everybody really wants what's best for this program. And people are a lot better than they appear sometimes when they're sending tweets and posts or whatever they call them now on X, which I always will call Twitter. So it's just funny how that's worked out. But I think what I'm seeing even from some of the most staunch supporters is I'm starting to see some wavering. I'm starting to see those people kind of question, like, okay, maybe there is a problem here, and maybe it does have to do with the leadership. So I think we're starting to see a shift in the fan base. Like we've always had those who are skeptical, myself included. And I think that now it's kind of like we're all kind of getting on the same page, some a little bit slower than others, but I think we're heading towards a change, if I had to guess. And I think you're going to hear a lot more of these things coming out. And if a change is made, it's going to be interesting, some of the stuff that comes out after the staff is done. But of course, I do hope we can all be pleasantly surprised and they turn it back around. I'm not so sure,
Yeah. The confidence level for that is low. I think one more thing I want to talk about, this rumor wise is, listen, basketball is a competitive sport. And if you're playing basketball for a living or coaching basketball for a living, which our coaches and players are doing, you've got to have a certain competitive nature to you. And this type of stuff, things getting heated in practice between coaches, between players, that happens all the time across the country in NBA teams, college teams, stuff like that. Now, if something happened, the level of it doesn't rise to the, a point to where, it gets reported, but when you never hear about this type of stuff when things are going well.
No.
I mean, listen, I heard stories about RP and players and Rick Pitino and players in that practice that got into it and stuff. And it's just the competitive nature of basketball. But you never heard about it because everything was great. And at the end of the day, it usually doesn't even matter. Everybody makes up after the fact. The reason you're hearing about this stuff is because people, in my opinion, outside the program and now within the program are having issues with where the program is headed. Yep. And so stuff like this gets leaked and it gets, intensified and stuff like that. And to your point, Kyle, I think we are at the point now, and we haven't played a game yet, but the writing's on the wall. And in my opinion, it's not when a coach or if a coaching change is going to be made. It's can he last throughout the whole year?
Well, and the Sharks are in the water now, like nationally. So what I'm seeing is there's people that they prey off this stuff, and I mean it's a big thing right now. Losing that exhibition game really ramped it up because they were already circling. They were circling and they were looking for the blood, and then we just gave them the blood, and so now they're chomping at the bit. And so there's a lot of notoriety to be gained. There's a lot of entertainment value in being the first one to come up with a take about what's going on behind the scenes. So that can lead to credibility concerns. In some cases, that can lead to people falsifying things. But in other cases, it leads to people investigating and putting their eyes on the program more so than they might normally do. And they may have those right connections, and they may start obtaining information that is true. So it's interesting, and it's going to be, use discernment. My only advice to anybody listening, don't just run with a rumor, even if you're getting a couple people hearing, because remember the way the rumor pyramid works. I'm telling you, if you start hearing the same, or I heard that too, I heard that too, and it's all coming out at the same time, that means one person just pumped it out to a bunch of people. And it may or may not be true. It may be true, but you got to be careful because, we actually ran into this about a month ago on our Discord. There was a text that was sent to somebody. They sent it to our Discord about something that did not happen at all with the basketball program. And we wanted to hold off and look into it before we even confirmed, like, hey, this actually happened. We confirmed it did not happen. But unfortunately, before we confirmed it did not happen, somebody leaked it outside of the Discord to a group of people, and then all of a sudden they got that information, and all they knew is it was in our Discord. They didn't know that we actually got it from outside of our Discord and just put it in there. We were just seeing if it was true, because you get things all the time. And so the thing you got to do is really look into it, because like I said, if you would ask me at 1:00, do you think something happened, like the specific altercation between the two parties involved, including the coach, I would have said, man, I haven't heard anybody that says it didn't happen. But then all of a sudden, as we got closer, right before the athletic department released their tweet, people started saying, no, this did never happen. And so I don't know. I don't know, man. We're in dire times. I think that, even like seeing that coaching change his Twitter account, saying that the leadership here the administration approached Danny Manning about becoming the interim head coach. And he said no. That's quite a crazy thing for that account to be posting. It may be complete bunk, but I know that account's broken a lot of stuff in the past that was not bunk.
Yeah, they have some credibility. It's
entertaining, but just try not to, on our pod at least, I don't want to run with anything that we don't know. I will tell you what I have heard, though, that I do believe, and it's what I said earlier, that there's not a lot of communication going on among specific staff members directly to each other. Maybe it's not true, but I'm telling you, the people that are telling me, I find it hard to believe that it's not. And then they get together and they hold practices, but you can tell the right hand doesn't always know what the left hand's doing, for lack of better terms.
Yeah. And, honestly, the way this is going to go, how I predict, and this is my opinion, nobody else's. I think if things keep going bad, then you're going to continue to keep having this stuff, like Pat said, disseminate out more and more at a higher frequency. It's literally going to be like somebody living paycheck to paycheck. Okay. Like if we go out and we start winning games and start putting wins together, you'll start hearing that stuff kind of start cooling off a little bit. But if there's any room to pick a scab, so to speak, it's going to happen, and you're going to see the blood in the water, and you're going to continue to keep seeing things coming out and coming out and coming out. And this is very, very similar to what we saw to the beginning of the end of the MAC era. I think that's honestly where we're at. I'm not saying that this is going that way. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying it's things to pay attention to if we lose just watch after every loss, if and when there is a loss. Watch what you see come out after every win. I would say watch how it kind of goes quiet. That's just me. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, when you've been following this stuff as long as you have, if any of us have, like, you can kind of start getting a gauge on what's going on and where some of this stuff is coming from. And, it's just the way it's going to be. Like, we're literally living game to game right now. We're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, I can see somebody said they got crucified for bringing up Chris Beard. I want to say that, like, I'm not crucify you, but I mean, we got to use a little bit of common sense here. We're not going to hire a coach in our situation after coming off of 2 scandals that we still hear about. We just got out of. We're not going to hire a coach with that kind of red flag.
He was acquitted.
Clear, IU. Chris Beard's a Knight disciple, and when IU's coaching position open, a lot of people wanted Chris Beard. This was before what happened with his now ex-wife, correct? Or is he still married to?
Wasn't he acquitted? He was acquitted.
He was. But what I'm saying
is, before
any of that came out, IU would not interview Chris Beard because they said there were red flags, which at the time I thought was insanity, absolute insanity. And about a year or 2 after that was when this stuff all comes out with his wife, now ex-wife, and he may have been acquitted. I understand that, but I'm telling you right now, I'm just telling you, our university ain't going to touch that. They're not going to touch it.
I don't blame
somebody like Sean Miller too. I've seen that. We're not touching Sean Miller, and it's not. Look, I'm not saying they're not good coaches. I'm saying, like, don't waste your time thinking about people that we're absolutely just not going to go after. It's just a waste of time and energy. Like, we're not going to go after these guys.
Yeah, it's part of the same reason, you don't really ever see Stoops mentioned for jobs outside of, UK. So, I mean, people figure out what a coach is about that's not always reported in the media. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting conversation to be had if we get to that point about who the next coach is going to be. You obviously want to, our staff is our staff right now. So it's kind of awkward when you're a fan because you want to think about the future if things aren't going well. But on the pod, we also don't want to be disrespectful to the staff that's in place. You still do hope there's a turnaround. I mean, that is the ultimate. I think that would be the best case scenario for all of us. And I think what you guys have alluded to, and to sum it up, the problem is if you continue to not give any hope, you're going to continue to fan the flames that have been created already about, who might be interested in the job, what kind of dirty stuff is going on, what kind of bad stuff behind the scenes is going on. You need to win games, and you need to do it now. Because
winning cures all woes.
And that's where, I know Coach Payne has said we need time, we need years. You're not going to get it, man. No. Right or wrong, you're not going to get it. And, I've gotten into why I think in the portal era you can turn around an entire roster in one offseason. We've seen it done. Jerome Tang just did it, and he's not the only one. I know T.J. Otzelberger did it his first season at Iowa State after they won, guess what, 4 games the year before. It happens, and they're not the only 2. So the thing is, it doesn't take as long, but that all aside, whether you agree or disagree with that, the reason you really don't have time like you think is because this stuff here, like what we've seen all day today, including up to this pod of rumors, chomping at the bit, that stuff's not going to stop if you continue to drop big games. It's just not. And unfortunately, that's just the society we live in. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that it's right to start things without knowing for sure and just throwing stuff out there if you can't confirm it's true. But that's the world we live in, and it's going to continue until you start winning games. So you need to win now.
Yeah. Yeah, and my honest opinion is the time, talking about time is, we can give you time to reach the ultimate goal of being a national title contender. Louisville, its fans, the city economically, the university economically, we cannot afford to give you time to make us a Power 5 looking team. We can't. There is not time to do that. There's not time for Kenny Payne. There's not time for Jay Wright. There's not time for anybody out there to give you 2+ years to make us into a team that can put respectable results on the court and be a competitive basketball team at the Power 5 level. And asking people to give you time to do that is naive and a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah. And, to hit off of that, whether you love it or you hate it, the change in the portal rules and the development of NIL into college sports has brought us not only closer to pro sports at the amateur level in this country, but also more to a pro level at the coach and administration level too, right? You just don't have all that time that you used to have. But that being said, basketball was always the sport compared to football. It was a lot easier to turn a team around in a couple seasons than compared to football. It was always like that. I mean, to hit close to home, and I've hammered this home before, but Calipari came in 2009 at UK, and you would have thought that Gillespie had UK on their deathbed, right? He comes in 2009, turns it around in one season with without a portal.
Yeah,
he just recruiting and takes them to the Elite Eight in year one,
which was technically an underachievement for that team. The way they were,
I
want to put this comment on here real quick because it kind of loses what you're talking about. Jeff left. Even if we fire Kenny, we'll still be weak for another 2 years. It depends on who we hire because that's not necessarily true in the transfer portal era. Especially,
it's really not.
I've got like 5 coaches in the top of my head right now, like right off the top of my head that had immediate success in year one following a terrible previous season. Yeah. Jerome Tang's one of them. He's on my list. I know Eric Musselman did really well. Did we lose Ross? Okay, hold on. Let me fix these banners till he gets back. Okay. So Musselman, when he got to Arkansas, immediately started turning them around. I talked about TJ Otzelberger out of Iowa State. Didn't do quite as well last year, and I wouldn't say he's on my list because I feel like his offense lacks. But I'm watching him this year. He's on the radar. But Jeff, a guy's going to get 2 years no matter what, I think. I think even if a guy comes in here in year one, doesn't do well. I mean, Coach Payne got a year or two after winning 4 games. So He's going to get 2 years. But I don't think with a top 10 basketball program of all time who's looking to rebound from years of scandals and not having a Hall of Fame coach, we've been a revolving door after having 2 coaches for damn near 50 years. Yeah. We have been a revolving door. So we are looking for success and we're looking for it now. And if it takes more than 2 years, I don't care who the coach is in the transfer portal era, they're not going to be able to stick around unless they're showing. I mean, now let me be real. If you win like 15 games your first year, which isn't successful here, then you turn around and win like 22 games your second year and you make the tournament, you'll get a third season that way, even though we still might not know exactly where you stand. But if you come in here and lay 2 eggs in a row, if you lay 2 eggs, you're out. And I mean, that's a program like Louisville. We're not Rutgers, for example. We're not Boston College. Like, we're Louisville. And that's how it is, especially in this era where you can literally flip a roster and have instant impact guys. And we do have a really good NIL program here. We're not Arkansas with all their stuff going on, but we have a really good collective. And I mean, Josh Hurt, to his credit, has done a really good job setting up the NIL departments here. And then our NIL collectives are pretty advanced, and I feel like we're a sleeping giant because we are a historical basketball program, and we have that ability. If it's not going to be the staff, and I'm only saying if, I'm not saying it's not guaranteed. It's not looking great as of today, but it can turn around. I'm not saying it won't, but if it is a new staff, that's going to be a priority. And I would argue that if we have to replace this basketball staff, this would be the most crucial hire in the history of Louisville sports. And I don't say that exaggerating. I feel like our basketball program is on the brink of total destruction. We've had too many hits. We can't take another big hit. We just can't do it, or we will end up in the abyss like Georgetown College.
Georgetown, yep, that's exactly where I was going.
Or St. John's even, and I mean St. John's got Rick Pitino, but look at the weird, unique circumstance it took. He'd still be our coach today if he wasn't. If what happened didn't happen, I'm not going to get into all that. But other than say, like St. John's kind of like stepped into like a 4-leaf clover type of luck right now, a pot of gold. Now, of course, they did lose their exhibition game before somebody brings that up. I know. But I have the faith that he'll turn it around. Before I pass it off to you guys, I did want to say, because we got quite a few listeners in here, feel free to like and subscribe to our channel if you're new and you enjoy the content. Liking the video helps our algorithm. Of course, if you subscribe, and then if you hit the little bell and turn on the notifications, you'll see when we come on for post games. We're also on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, usually every Wednesday. With that being said, I mean, aren't you guys with me about this? This is not take 2 years anymore. Those are old paradigms.
Yeah, I mean, listen. This job needs, no doubt, our image has taken a hit, and the next coach is going to have. You got to give them proper time to rebuild the image. That doesn't mean you have to give them time to get the results
Jeff,
that we need to rebuild that image. A good coach in today's college game can hit the portal and scheme his way into the tournament at a place like the University of Louisville. Now, I'm not saying, listen, going into, if you're going to be the next coach at Duke, the University of Kentucky, even the University of Virginia and something like that, is the image factor and that stuff going to be easier from day one? Of course it is. The next coach here, first win some games, go out there, get a roster, win some games, and next, involve the fans. Be the type of coach that's charismatic, that wants to bring the fans, that wants to get out into the community and stuff, because you've got to get the buyback from the fans. And Wentz is going to do that, number one, but you also got to build that equity with them by making them feel involved, which I haven't, obviously I don't want to go to games because of the results on the court, but I also haven't felt like this staff has made me feel like part of the program at all.
And
I want to real quick, Jeff, I hear you about the guys the kids don't know anything about the historical presence. They didn't know anything about Kansas State either because they had absolutely no history. They don't, that's, to me, that's where your staff comes in and reinvigorates this program. It's with our NIL capabilities and the history when I talk about the historical, Jeff, I'm talking about our fan base. I'm talking about the fact that we have like several thousands of people that are wanting to get back on the saddle and be a part of this, but we have no light at the end of the tunnel right now. I feel like the solution can't be to just keep doing things the way we're doing because you don't think we can do any better. I mean, no program would ever improve with that mindset. UK would have never got Cal, which I know he's on the decline now, but nonetheless, they did have a upward trajectory for a while. Just to use the team that we don't like to talk about, it's the first team that came to mind, but a lot of teams have that. Like, how in the world would any team get good if you were just like, well, no kids really know about us, so why even try? Let's just keep doing what we're doing. I guess I don't understand that logic. It just takes, if the staff that's in place isn't working out, you replace the staff, man. And I mean, I hope it does work out, but I mean, what I'm telling you, Jeff, is we have all the tools in place. We have the train, and the train is like an up-to-date train, It's got all the resources you would need. It needs a conductor. And if it's not Coach Payne, then it needs to be somebody else that knows how to operate the advanced technology within the train we have, because there's not a lot of basketball schools that can keep up with us. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
Well, and let's be honest, to expand on your point there, in today's age of college basketball, people aren't coming to the University of Louisville because of tradition or it's the big name, or they're coming because whoever coaches the University of Louisville is who they want to play basketball for.
Jeff, they didn't have any energy, none, positive or negative. They had no. I mean, nobody even knew they had a basketball team.
Yeah,
I'm exaggerating, but I mean, they didn't have much, man.
Right, and there's some exceptions out there. Like I'm sure Caleb Glenn would play for most coaches here as long as he had some type of respect for them.
They can't use the scandal anymore. It's over.
But I don't think you have to worry about getting kids to come here because we haven't been good for the past few years. The kids are going to come here because they want to play for the coach that's coaching here.
Yeah, I'm addressing Jeff. I mean, it's good, man. Like we love you being in here, man. And I don't mean to sound like look, man, if we get Jerome Tang I know some people fantasize about Jay Wright. I think that's way too good to be true. I'm just saying, if we get the right guy in here, this fan base will jump, and they will jump quick. We've already seen that in football. I know we weren't nearly as bad off in football, but it was very lukewarm. I mean, nobody really cared. It was like you were just kind of going through the motions with Scott Satterfield. Yeah. Jeff Brom comes in, and boom. I mean, we're still working up, where we need to get to as a football fan base, but we're doing better this year in attendance than we've ever done overall. And it's in year one. And I mean, everybody's excited about football. And I mean, it can happen overnight in basketball where the precedence has already been set in the past. Like, this is a basketball town, man. Like, this is a mecca. This is, we don't have any professional sports to compete against. And basketball is in our blood. Football, we're trying to establish tradition, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer. In basketball, we have the tradition. We just don't have the present. So you get the right coach in here, man, and that's why I said it's the most crucial hire ever. Jeff, I'm not saying we just replace the coaching staff with anybody if it comes to that. We have to make the right hire, and it has to reinvigorate this fan base. But I promise you, if you make the right hire, there's a couple guys. If you get a guy like a Jerome Tang, if you were to somehow snag a Scott Drew or an Eric Musselman, and I'm not saying those guys would come here. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying somebody on that level who would not be excited about that. I'm telling you right now, the whole complexion of this program would change overnight.
Yeah, and I'm completely on board. And to go back to what Pat was saying a few minutes ago about equity in the fan base, it starts with how you build the equity with the fan base is you beat the teams that you're supposed to beat when you're a program like Louisville. You win those games. You don't even question those games. You don't question those games at all. And the fact that we have to sit here, we have to sit here and worry about, well, oh man, if we play like this against Kentucky Wesleyan, we're going to lose. That is not where Louisville basketball belongs. That's not what we were built on. That's not the standard that we hold this program to. And I absolutely refuse to lower that standard. I will not lower that standard. Okay. I'm not going to do it. No one is bigger than this program. I love Kenny Payne to death. I have wanted this to work out like nobody's business. I've wanted this to work out, like I said earlier, I've wanted this to work out that we all got to revel and enjoy the success that KP leading this basketball program, like Jeff Brom leading our football program, because he's one of ours. It has that fairy tale feeling, that fairy tale ending, and you just roll with it. But that is not happening. We are doing exactly the opposite of that. And I am not going to lower the standard because no one is bigger or better or beyond the program that is the University of Louisville basketball. We do not lower our standards. Yeah. So you all sit there and reflect upon yourselves. I'll say this, reflect upon yourselves, and you feel growing up.
That's supposed to say Tang Gang instead of Tang Bang, but I love the title.
Is this the program that you grow up loving and you grew up watching? Because it's not. You're lying to yourself if it is. Yeah. It's not. It is absolutely a matter of getting the right person and the right staff in this capacity to lead us to the point to where we win those games and we don't even question those games early in the season that we're playing. And then that's the foundation. That's where you build. You start there. You start winning those games. You get that back. And then you go out and you start beating teams that maybe are competing and looking competent to beat teams that maybe you're an underdog against. You get to that level. And then you just keep building and you keep building and you keep building. That's where we're at right now. So build that equity. And right now, to your point, Pat, we don't have that coach that is building that equity. We don't have that staff. We don't have that staff that is building that equity within the fan base.
I feel like we got a little bit of Stockholm syndrome going on in the fan base, with a segment of the fan base. Look, man, just because it's been this way for the last few years. I mean, when we had Coach Crum come in, well, actually it started with Peck Hickman, but then Coach Crum came in and elevated us. Then we started to kind of flatline with him. Coach Pitino comes in, re-elevates us. Yeah. Ebbs and flows all the time. Admittedly, we are at a really low point right now. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, look at St. John's. They've been a doormat. I'm interested to see what they do under Coach Pitino. I know they lost the pace in the exhibition game. I also know teams that lost exhibition games that went and won a national championship the same year. So I still think with 3 of the starters out and it being a first game, I'm really interested to see how they finish the season. But teams come back to life, man. Go ahead, Patrick. I'll cut you off.
Well, and I think, for me, as a fan, you want to see the wins and losses, or the wins and not the losses. But for me, too, another big thing is accountability. Holding yourself accountable when things go wrong. And it's a breath of fresh air with Jeff Brom. And not a ton of things have gone wrong. But after the Pittsburgh loss, he comes out there. He doesn't say, hey, listen, this is all the kids' fault. I can't, it's, hey, I made some mistakes as a coach. Me and the coaching staff have to go back and look at this because I think we made some mistakes in this game, And that, as a fan, that's what I want to hear after a loss like that. I don't want to hear
accountability.
Right. I don't want to hear about how the players, all stink and we don't have talent and which is your problem anyway. I want to hear, hey, listen, the players got to get better, the coaches have to get better, and we got to figure this thing out because it's not Louisville quality. And I haven't heard that once, man. Not once in this whole debacle of a year and a half have I heard someone within the program say, hey, this isn't Louisville quality, it's unacceptable, and that responsibility is on me.
Because he said he had 3 starters out of the game. So I guess you're telling me that Coach Rick Pitino doesn't know who starts for his own team. Is that the argument here? Just asking. I'm for listeners later. I'm answering a question. How do you know they had 3 starters out? Sounds like excuses. No, I've already told you once, 3 Shades, in a previous episode that I don't make excuses for losing. But you compare it. You're saying Coach Kenny Payne and Rick Pitino are the same exact caliber coach. That's your argument because they both lost an exhibition game. That is your argument. You're saying that they're the same exact coach, that they have the same exact accomplishments. They've won the same amount of games. same amount of championships, Final Fours. That has to be your argument because it's the only way you can bring that up. It's a false equivalence. It's not the same. And we've done it 2 years in a row with a roster that's entirely ours, whereas he did it in his first game with 3 starters out per his roster that he said he was missing 3 starters. I tend to believe him. I'm not taking up for the fact that he lost the game. He lost an exhibition game. That's never acceptable. But
Right.
Let me tell you something. Rick Pitino has earned the ability to be trusted. What do you think he should be on a hot seat after one exhibition game at St. John's? Is that what you're, because Coach Payne is on a hot seat. So are you saying that he's unfairly on a hot seat and Coach Pitino should be, or that neither one of them should be on a hot seat? I disagree with both. I don't think Coach Pitino should be on a hot seat for one exhibition game without 3 of his starters, nor do I think Coach Payne should be off of the hot seat after losing 28 games, winning 4, and then he comes in and loses an exhibition game in the second season in a row. And then you hear all these things going on. Some of them are BS and made up, but there are some concerns behind the scenes.
Hey, Kyle,
situations are not the same. That's all I'm going to say about it, because I've talked to you about this before. I feel like you post and ghost, and maybe you don't, but I mean, you keep bringing that up, and I don't understand. Like, you're basically saying that Coach Payne and Coach Pitino are the exact same coach because they both lost an exhibition game. And I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to be respectful, but man, I cannot wrap my mind around that logic.
Yeah, and Kyle, I don't know if you. Unfortunately, I know that St. John's lost, but I didn't really look for Rick's comments after the loss, and maybe you haven't either. But I'm interested.
I did not, no.
See, I'm interested to know because if I know the Rick Pitino that was here, I'm sure he took some accountability for that loss and said, "Hey, sure. This isn't, give Pace all the credit in the world, but this isn't St. John's basketball." I'm sure he said something exactly like that. I can't say that he did because I don't know what he said, but based off of his history, I'm sure he said something like that. And to a lot of people's points in our comment section, listen, Rick Pitino's a Hall of Fame coach. He's won 2 national championships.
I mean, it's like you don't even have to explain it, Pat. I know what you're doing. I understand why, but it's like, are we really trying to explain why he's in a different position? Right. The only reason I even address the comment is because this is the second time he's come in here and said, like, people are making excuses for Coach Pitino losing that game. It's like, no, you just think it's the same. You think these two are the same because of one game, and I just doesn't.
Well, and to be
as a you say more about it, because it's just at some point I'm just kind of arguing with something that's just it's kind of ludicrous, to be honest.
Well, I think as a U of L fan, listen, I love Coach Pitino, but at the end of the day, am I interested to see what he does at St. John? Sure, but from a U of L standpoint, do I really care that much? No. It doesn't. What Rick Pitino does at St. John's does not affect how I view how our coach does here. Now, how Rick Pitino did at the University of Louisville affects how I view how a coach does here. But, I don't. Personally, I don't care what Rick Pitino's doing at St. John's. I care about what Kenny Payne's doing here.
I mean, I like to kind of watch to see, like, is he still got it?
Right.
But I mean, I'm not invested.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's not the same. Like, it's not the same. But I mean, to beat a dead horse, I mean, one, going back to that equity equivalency, right? One coach has built equity in their resume and the other one has not, right? It is a false equivalency. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. Like, there were a lot of people last year within U of L that gave Kenny a pass for the loss to Lenore-Ryan, gave us a pass to the loss to we lost to Navy, we lost to Bellarmine, we lost to App State, we lost to God knows who else early in the season. And, it was because, this is a coach that is learning and finding his way. If Rick Pitino loses those games this year on that level, his equity that he has built up upon his resume, that will come back to haunt him. The fans of St. John's will be out for Rick Pitino's head if he loses games like that in a row. They will be out for his head. They will say this is an old man that doesn't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it goes both ways. But to compare one game to one game, it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that.
And I wouldn't be upset if Coach Payne lost to Lenore Rye last year and then turned around and won 25 games in the regular season.
I wouldn't
lost this game. I'd say, well, you know what? I'd say, hell, he did this last year and we won 25 games.
Yeah.
Oh, we won 4 games. And so when you see it again this year, it's like, oh, well, that's not what we were hoping for. That is not – because what we said after the Ben Simmons win? We said, come on, man. We said, okay, that's not a very good team, but, hey, we won our first exhibition game. That's something different than last year, and we won by 40-something points.
And
so take that, use that momentum, despite the amount of turnovers, use that positive momentum, and we'll move forward. And let's hope we win our next exhibition game because that would be better. But then all of a sudden we lose the next one, and it's like, oh, okay, I've seen this before. And those thoughts and even some of the most staunch KP advocates have been saying, like, we've seen this before. Like they were saying it last night when I was talking.
It's
a
trend.
This isn't what we wanted to see.
It's a trend.
Even some of them are starting to waver, and it's like it's okay if you disagree. But my God, I'm just sick and tired of using that exhibition record team. I'm just sick of that argument. It's not an argument. So
it's really not. And what's more important, like what Pat was saying, it doesn't matter what Rick is doing at St. John's, what Oxenberger is doing at Iowa State, or what anybody's doing to anybody else. What matters is what Kenny Payne in year 2 is doing at Louisville. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we're seeing is we're losing games. We may not be a top tier blue blood program in college basketball like a UK, a Duke, a Kansas, a North Carolina, even a UCLA. We don't have that, but we're right below that. We're right there with Indiana. We're right there with the Michigan States. We're right there with,
Villanova.
Yeah, we're right. We're right there. Like
above them even, that's debatable too.
In tiers, we are a 1B, and we are in that top 10 blue blood basketball tradition and program of all time. We have 3 championships. Okay, and so. For you to sit there and make excuses, you're not doing your program that you grew up rooting for and loving. You're not doing that program any justice at all. You're not. You're really not. And, if you've ever played any sports, you will see that you have like a coach, and then like the coach's son is on the team. The coach is hardest on his son more than any player on that team. And it's because he holds him to a higher standard than everybody else. Hold your program to a higher standard than everybody else. Hold your program high.
Big Cardinal fan. That's part of the problem with having both sports intersecting is you kind of go back and forth between the two sports.
Hold our program high, man. I'm on record, like I'm a football first guy. I love to see that Braum and this football program are leading the way. I think that's the way of the future. but it doesn't mean that we need to give up on our basketball program, and it's not important. It's very important to this fan base. It's very important to this school, this university, and to this city. We need our basketball program to get back what it has earned over 50 years. Get it back.
I did
and
want
right
to touch
now,
on one
we,
thing.
right now, we're being all sold
Football.
short. We're not getting that.
I did want to touch on one thing with football. JoJo Stone, we haven't touched on it. Now, Ash isn't on here tonight. He was supposed to be on here tonight, but he's not. I wanted to say, since y'all want to talk about football a little bit, he looks like a prophet right now. Does he not?
He does, man.
Let me get a little background story for you guys. So back when the Haley Van List stuff happened, this was a pod I was not on. Apparently, I felt like I need to babysit. Ross goes in. I'm kidding. Ross goes in a little bit on the Haley Van List situation. He's very frustrated with her interview where she kind of puts herself in a position of a victim and kind of threw some shade at our program, I felt like, despite the fact that I feel like, we did a lot for Haley Van Lith while she was here. So it rubbed a lot of us fans the wrong way, myself included. I wasn't on that.
We're talking about the one where she spoke upon herself in third person, right?
Yes. And so anyway, some LSU fans got a hold of that. They got a hold of that, and they started sharing it, attacking it, and just basically talking shit. So Ash gets on there and says, hey, y'all can stay mad all y'all want because we're going to get JoJo Stone too. And that was on June 15th. And now look, JoJo Stone's visiting, and it sounds like JoJo Stone's going to commit. Now, I mean, anything
He's
can
also
happen
he decommitted. He decommitted from LSU.
That's what I'm saying. So This has been in the works. With JoJo Stone. Now, I will say, to LSU's defense, I do think that they've also cooled some due to his injury history, and he hasn't played as much lately. I do think they kind of backed off some, and it was mutual.
No. Redact that. Edit that from the pod.
What?
Redact that. Edit that from the pod.
Well, what I just said.
We just beat them. We beat them straight up for JoJo Stone.
Okay. Well, and subject, I really do think that like they would have fought harder, and I feel like this time they're like whatever. I think he was coming here either way. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to redact it. I think we're going to land JoJo Stone either way. But what I'm saying is, I think they finally were like, whatever, dude, do what you want.
I think they were scared of Ash, man.
I think they're scared of Ash. That's the most logical.
They said this kid's going there. This guy predicted it. We don't want to mess with him.
We don't want to mess with the third banner pod. Yeah, I remember all those LSU fans were like hating. They were like, "Oh, look at all these old men bitter about Haley Van Lith." I thought it was funny because I wasn't actually on the episode, so I was like going on the plane and it had to put in airplane mode and come back down and look at all that drama unfold with their fan base. But it's funny to be able to come back.
Yeah. That was my first episode.
4.5 months later, and it's coming full circle. JoJo Stone's going to be a card. It all happens. So they want predictions, though. I think we need to wrap up with that. They want predictions for this weekend. So I'm going to let one of y'all, Patrick, what do you think is going to happen again, the Virginia Tech game? Give us your score prediction.
Yeah, man, as I was saying when we had Dominique on, I think this team plays really well at home, and we feed off the fans. I hope people buy tickets and get out there. But I think we're going to feed off the fans again. 3:30 game. People, I think that's a perfect time for a game, and I think you'll see we're going to score some points. They're going to score some points. I'm going to go with a 40-28 game.
Ooh. You're really
and
close.
That's not because I don't trust our defense, but he's a different quarterback than we've seen probably since Boston College. And they we scored a lot of points, but they scored some points on us too. So I think they're going to score some points on us, but we're going to come out on top for sure.
Yeah, I think in what he presents, I think he's the most difficult prospect and, shit, I'm having a blank right now. He's the most difficult prospect that we have faced to this point as far as QB since week one, honestly, since Georgia Tech. That's my opinion. I from what I've seen from that kid thus far, he is a real playmaker. I think that they will be able to move the chains at times. I just believe that when it gets down into the red zone, they're going to struggle to score touchdowns when they need to. And I believe in our offense being able to move the ball a lot more efficiently against them. This isn't Bud Foster and Va Tech and that old, defense that Va Tech has built their reputation upon. So I got a score of 44 to 20. Let me think about this. 44. I'm trying to do the math in my head. 44-23 Cards. That's where I'm at. 44-23. I really think we're going to cover. I think that we're going to win big. And maybe it's a pseudo confidence, but I'm feeling pretty dang good, man, because I know that this team is going to feed off of what the coaching staff is giving them, and I think this team will realize the moment where we're at right now compared to the last staff. I talked about it with Dominique Yates, when we had him on earlier. It just these players and this team feed off of this coaching staff so much more than what we saw before. I think we roll, and I think the fans are going to be, and I think there's going to be tons of fans in attendance, and I think it's going to be great weather. It's going to be a great game, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think this is one where Coach Braun finally gets exercises the demons of following up a ranked win with a loss. I think this is the one where he finally gets a win after a ranked win. And I think a lot of it does have to do with us being at home. I'll be honest, if this game was at Virginia Tech, I'd be a lot less confident right now, but we play well at home. They don't play as well on the road.
Yeah.
Why I said earlier in the pod, like way earlier, that I'm having a hard time predicting this game is because I'm a big trends guy. That doesn't always tell the whole tale, but it does kind of give you a baseline to work off of. And I think that there's just a lot of conflicting streaks on the line here. Obviously, our home streak is good. Jeff Brom's follow-up games after a big win are not as good. Virginia Tech, not been good on the road, but they're coming off of a bye week, which always kind of throws a little wrinkle in there. It gives them an extra week to prepare. It may not matter.
And a very inferior opponent. They coming from playing Syracuse to playing us. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a lot of time to prepare. And, of course, they got to watch us last week against Duke. I think the key will be slowing down the run. I think we have the horses to do it, but it is a unique running attack. Makes me a little nervous that Trent thinks we're going to win big because usually it's the opposite. Trent, I need you to think we're going to get beat, man. No, but seriously, I do think we're going to win. I think it's going to be enough being at home. Like I said, Amazon Prime, Jack Plummer shows up at home. The Wish version of Jack Plummer shows up on the road, which thankfully we only have one more true road game. And I mean, I'm hoping he can show up for that one, but it's one game at a time right now. And I think the team has learned its lesson, and the coaches more than anything. I think the coaching staff has learned its lesson on not freaking out in the middle of a game and just throwing away what works and just getting pass happy. I don't think we'll do that against Virginia Tech unless we're just having absolutely no success. But we've got a healthy, stable running backs to our knowledge.
Yep.
Our defensive tackles are all back to our knowledge, and I add those to our knowledges in there because it seems like right before the kickoff every single week you hear about an injury or two you had no idea was even a thing. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Fingers crossed.
I'm hoping we set up the rush like we have been and put Jack in a situation where he doesn't have to make a whole lot of major decisions and feel like he has to take the brunt of the game on his shoulders. Now, granted, teams know that. Teams are preparing against us now for that. I think that game plan is out there because you look at the games we almost lost and the game that we did lose, and that's a common theme is that the game was put squarely in the hands of Jack Plummer at some point, and he had a lot of trouble with that. So that's the game plan if you're a defense coordinator against a Brom coached offense is let's take the ball out of the running back's hands and make him make decisions. But that's easier said than done when you have Jawar Jordan back there. And then you got Maurice Turner as a second string guy. And then when you think it can't get any worse, Isaac Arendo goes in there and pounds you. So we've got we got like three guys right now that are studs at the running back position, and it's easier said than done. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to stack the box and take that away, but then that opens up passing lanes that I think he will be able to take advantage of at home. Long rambling over, I will go Cards 37, Virginia Tech 28.
Like it. Similar scores. I think we all had there, man. So.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the consensus, I mean, all of us see and go, we're going to score over 35 points to win that game. So I think if it's a low-scoring game, then that generally means that we probably started slow and, the offense wasn't clicking early and we had to play catch up. So and that doesn't work out well for us. Like I said earlier, that makes us have to force the ball into Plummer's hands, and that's not what you want to do. You want to be able to call your offensive play sheet the way that you've planned to call it, and you want to keep those throws. You want to keep Plummer's throws controlled within reason.
All right. Well, the chat is starting to talk about auto interest rates, so that tells me it's about time to wrap this baby up. That being said, we talked about a lot tonight, and we were kind of back and forth on what to talk about, but that's what happens when football and basketball intersect, and both of them had important weeks for very different reasons. So that being said, show up and show out to the game on Saturday, and we'll see what unravels in basketball. We have a game next week on Monday, our first game technically. That's the good news. We are 0-0. The game
we are
the other night
technically
happened based on the record books. So that being said, guys, do y'all have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Perfect weather, football weather on Saturday. Get out there, watch the Cards. Let's bring home another win, get closer to the ACC title game.
Yeah, I mean, right there with you. I mean, in 10 days, we could be 9-1 right now. I mean, because following the Virginia Tech game on Saturday, we got Virginia that following Thursday. Let's get out there and pack the stadium. If you haven't been to a game this year, the team really, really feeds off your energy. Like, it's noticeable this year. It's some of the best environments that you will ever be a part of. Get out there. Let's root these guys on. We're in sole control of our destiny. We keep winning. You win these next two games especially. We're almost guaranteed to be in the ACC championship. Get out there. Root for these guys. Let's be loud. That's all I got to say. Go Cards. Go Kroger and baby.
Go Cards.
Let's go.
Till next time.